At the beginning of the school year, the question that I get asked most often is, what supplies do I need for class? And I think that is a great question because it tells me that you are interested in being successful throughout the year. So that's what this video is going to be about. What I'm going to do is take you through all the supplies that I recommend that you have, or a couple of things that I actually require that you have. Up first is a notebook, but not any type of notebook. This is a gridded notebook. What that means is that all the pages throughout are going to be on gridded paper. Now, at first, when you start using these, it's going to be a little bit odd. It's going to be tough to learn how to write on them, but ultimately, the things that we do in math involve a lot of graphs and diagrams, and if you can draw those correctly, it works out better for you to understand the material, and that's why I require it. Okay, here's a little bit of a sample of what some stuff might look like. Like here, it's a little odd trying to figure out like how to write on it. I think, just learning to use this type of paper for writing words. But when you start looking at the graphs that you end up creating, this is called the sine curve here. When you have to start making stuff like this, and it needs to be accurate so you can really understand what's happening, the gridded notebook is going to really pay off on that end. And really, that's the most important thing. The words that you write they're the words. They tell you things, but it's going to be the diagrams and the graphs that are going to really be teaching you the information. Here's a couple other things that you're going to have to be able to draw on your notebook, and I think that they give you a good idea of why a gridded notebook is a good idea. I mean, these are actually pictures that are in three-dimensional space, so if you had to do this on notebook paper, the odds of you creating the pictures that you really want are going to be harder. So we're able to draw things like that. You can get pictures like this over here, and much easier to draw things like cubes. You can draw things like that. So overall, your diagram is going to look better if you're using a gridded notebook. This exact notebook that I'm showing here is actually a composition notebook. This is the type that I generally recommend, mostly because of the size of it. It's a little bit smaller than a normal sized like piece of paper, so it ends up being easier to just sort of take with you and keep around versus having something that's larger. There are other options that are available. Another type that I like are they'd be the normal size pieces of paper, the 8.5 by 11, but what you would have is a spiral gridded notebook. So you can find those, and that's perfectly fine. You can use that. I'm not suggesting that you have to get this one. I happen to like these. The spiral gridded notebooks are pretty good. You also have the option that you can get loose graph paper that you just put into a 3-ring binder, but that would be the one that I least recommend because those pages have more of a tendency to get pulled and then ripped out of the notebook. Plus, just overall as a binder, it's going to be bigger and bulkier and not quite as put together when we get to the end. And my goal here with the notebook is not just to have you take notes and to have diagrams and then do the stuff in the moment, but I'm hoping that your notebooks will turn out to be something that is useful for you to keep as you move forward. All right, next I'm going to talk about different types of instruments that you might want to use for the class. I'm going to go ahead and put down this white piece of paper just so you can see the things that I'm talking about here because they are transparent. Up first is a protractor. You might not use this every single time you're taking notes, but you're going to use a protractor often enough that it would be good to have one. This protractor is actually a 4-inch protractor, which is a little bit smaller than what you typically see. They're a bit harder to find. You can definitely buy one off of Amazon. You can also sometimes get these little protractors if you buy like a little kit of supplies. So that's another option you can go. I do prefer the smaller protractors because when you have the larger ones, it requires you to have larger like images to be measuring or attempting to draw, where the little ones are obviously better for smaller figures. So I do recommend that you have a protractor. You are also going to have a ruler. I just use the 6-inch ruler. That pretty much covers me for everything. So if you're going to be keeping something in a backpack or some sort of a little maybe pencil bag, a 6-inch ruler is perfect. You do want it to have inches and centimeters. We actually are going to use centimeters a lot for things, so make sure you have like both types of measurements. If your protractor has that on it, then you should be fine with that. Okay, but maybe you want to grab a ruler as well. All right, the next item that I'm going to talk about is a compass. Now, this item is more for my geometry classes. At some point in the year, you are going to have a compass that you'll be using. Okay, it's not something that we use a lot, and I actually attempt to avoid using compasses as much as possible because they're just really difficult to work with. Now, a traditional compass is going to be the little pointy item that has the pencil that'd be on it where you can move around and make arcs. Now, this is a different type of a compass, and it works out pretty good. As a quick demonstration though, this one, here's a little piece that just slides in and out, so you don't have to actually adjust the pencil and the point, and then you can make arcs like around that part there. Okay, now a compass, again, I attempt to not require that one as much in the class because they are difficult to use, especially if you need to draw a full-size circle. And speaking of circles, whether you're in my geometry class or my pre-cal class, you're going to be drawing a lot of circles. In geometry, you're going to have a full unit on circles at some point. Pre-cal, you're going to be drawing those throughout the course. Surprisingly, circles are like the basis for trigonometry, and then most of the class is designed to build from there. So you're going to have a lot of pictures of circles. All right, so my other instrument that I'm going to require that you have is something that makes circles. Now, it can be different types of stuff. That's fine. You can use the compass if you want to, but I really think that that's going to be a difficult approach. This is the instrument that I use. This is an item that I got at Hobby Lobby. The only thing that I really know about it as far as what it's called is just the brand name. The brand name is a Helix, which is spelled Helix. So this is a Helix. So I found this at Hobby Lobby, cost about $4. This is really cool for making quick circles. You can see that it already has a bunch of different sizes cut out. Okay, so something that we'll be doing a lot in class. Again, this is geometry and it's even pre-cal. We're just gonna be drawing circles so that we have them available, and we want them to be true circles. The actual size of the circle might not matter when we're actually doing stuff. So as long as you have some sort of a stencil that you can copy the circles quickly, then that's perfect. You can do that. All right, really neat thing about this guy is that the whole center part actually turns as well. So that means that I'm not limited to just the circles that are shown here, but I can choose any one of these little dots, make whatever size circle that I want with that. So I think that's a really cool thing that has available. All right, if you don't get that, there's a lot of other things that are available. You can usually find these plastic green sheets that have a whole bunch of shapes cut out, and you might find one that just has a whole bunch of different size circles on them. But definitely get something that does make circles, because you're going to be using it over and over and over again. And that might sound like the oddest supply item put on a list is a circle stencil, but believe me, you're definitely going to need it, whether you're in my geometry or my pre-cal class. You're going to need that item. Moving into the pricey stuff here, calculators. You definitely want to have a calculator that you can use that has more functions than your basic adding and subtracting. Mostly what you need to make sure that it does have is the capability to do the trig functions, which are going to be called sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, now there's a lot of different routes that you can go about this. Okay, there's apps that you can download and you can use. There's less expensive calculators, maybe like $10, $15. Lots of different things that are available, but you want to find something that can do the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. Yeah, since this one doesn't have it on the actual face of it, I'll show you on this one here. You're looking for stuff that can do this, the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. You want those as options. All right, this calculator, this is actually one of the class set calculators that we have at Johnson High School. Okay, so when we return to school, this is the type of calculator that we'll have available for you in class that you can use. It's a very powerful calculator. It's pretty good. It is not my favorite type of calculator, okay? If you were gonna ask my recommendation on buying one, I would not suggest that you get this one, but keep in mind, so this is if you do wanna go and buy a calculator. Remember, I'm not telling you that you need to buy one, but if you're looking to buy one, this is the type that we do have in our classroom, so if you want one, that matches that type, you could get something, you could get an Inspire. The calculator that I use is a TI-84 plus CE. I think that stands for Color Edition. Okay, this is the calculator that I'm a little bit more familiar with because it's a lot like the calculator that I used back in high school, which means that it's easier for me to navigate through this and also, teach people how to use a calculator like this one. So when I'm recording videos for lessons or possibly in class, this would be the calculator that I would be using. Okay, so the TI-84 Plus, Colored Edition. There's some other calculators that are similar to this one that predate it. Before I had that one, this is the calculator I had. This is also a TI-84 Plus, but it's an older one. It requires batteries on it, and obviously the screen here is more like the original Game Boy type thing, but this works out great, and I still use it for things. And just for kicks, to let you know, I graduated from Hayes High School in 2000. Okay, so I started going to school at Hayes High School in 1996, and I signed up for a geometry class, geometry pre-AP, and we were required to purchase this calculator, or the 82, which is the one that was before it. So just for kicks here, that's the actual calculator that I had back when I was in high school. Okay, this would also work out perfectly fine. You're gonna notice that the buttons on the front are pretty much identical to what we have in the newer models here. So if you do have access to one of these, maybe in your dad's desk drawer, you might find one. If you do, this would be great. Go ahead and get it out, use it, and it's gonna match up almost identical to what I do here. Last item, I almost forgot to mention earlier, is have some different colored pens or pencils or whatever you want to use. Have different colored writing items so that when you do the notes, you can color code things. You can show multiple graphs at one time. You can do a lot of things with that. And as I'm going through the notes, you'll definitely see me using lots of different colors.
Waiter boy.